Planet Dolan.
From dry humping a snowman to bowling with shopping carts, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the weirdest things we did with our friends. I'm Pringle the One, and today I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by Raid Blade 360. Dean and his friends would throw water balloons at cars, but there was a lot more to it than that. They made a large slingshot to propel the water balloons. Then, one of them hooked up speakers which played the sounds of a dying deer. Once the slingshot and speakers were in place, Dean and his friends filled 10 water balloons with water, some thickeners, walnut clusters painted red, and red food coloring. They even had some friends to create 3D models of deer with red eyes. So, when the car pulled over, the people would see the 3 giant deer models standing there. With different speakers built into the models, Dean and his friends would say, "What have you done? Get out, now!" Thinking it was one of the deers, the drivers would get scared as hell and drive off. Luckily, nobody ever got hurt. Number 9 was submitted by Mote-of-Lobross. In the mid-90s, Sid and his friend once went to the parking lot of a grocery store that had been closed for years. Shopping carts littered the area, giving Sid and his friends an idea for a game: shopping cart bowling. They would line 10 carts up like bowling pins at the end of the lot. Then at the other end of the lot, they would take turns getting into Sid's car, grabbing the shopping cart through the open window and speeding towards the lined up shopping carts. The driver would hit the brakes while letting go of the shopping cart. Sid and his friends would watch as the shopping cart flew into the other shopping carts. It was a fun but weird game that Sid, his friend, and other idiot teenagers would always play. Number 8 was submitted by Princeton Piano Prodigy. Back when he was in middle school, Salty Squid, his cousin, and his friends would trash the school bathroom for fun. During the last several minutes of their lunch period, Salty Squid and his group would make an ungodly concoction with remaining scraps from their lunches. Then, after the bell rang, they would go into the bathroom and wreak havoc. They threw their concoction across the room and down the toilet, which caused the stall to flood. Sometimes, Salty Squid would even make himself puke in the toilet for added effect. They were never caught, as there were never any witnesses. Although he would never dream of doing anything like that again, Salty Squid and his cousins still laugh whenever one of them brings it up. Number 7 was submitted by Hitmonjet. On their last day in the army, Sweet Commando and his comrades decided to prank their senior sergeant during room inspection. They cleaned the toilet bowl and sterilized it, then took a packet of Nutella and smeared it on the inside of the bowl to make it look like a crap stain. When the senior sergeant saw the fake crap stain, he called Sweet Commando over and asked, "Would you mind telling me what this is?" Sweet Commando looked at it as though he was wondering what it was, when he scooped it up with his finger and stuck it in his mouth. After tasting it for a second, he said,
"Sir, that would be shit, sir."
The sergeant just looked at him in disbelief, with Sweet Commando trying hard not to break into laughter. However, everyone ended up rolling on the floor laughing. After telling their sergeant about the prank, he laughed at it too. That would actually never happen, and Sweet Commando would be destroyed if the sergeant saw that. Number 6 was submitted by CandyCat731. Ramona and her friends always did dumb stuff growing up. One night, they went on a prank run. They wore full tuxedos and gowns and went ding-dong ditching. Called as telemarketers, where they talked about feminine diapers and went around the neighborhood looking for dogs and cats their owners left outside and dressed them up in Halloween costumes. The worst was when they bought a package of condoms and filled them with lotion, Vaseline, and water. They threw them at passing cars, but one of the cars stopped right in the middle of the street. An angry man climbed out, making Ramona and her friends run back inside their apartment building and hide. They heard him pound on the door, which eventually burst open. One of Ramona's friends called 911, and luckily the man was arrested before he could find them. Since that night, they no longer play idiotic pranks, even though they laugh about it now. Number 5 was submitted by Lunarous Nexus. One time when it snowed, Helbin and his friend went for a walk on the icy roads. Along the way, and for some reason, they decided to make a snowman in the middle of the road. It wasn't anything unusual until Helbin asked his friends,
"What would it feel like to put my dick in this snowman?"
So his friends got a stick and made a hole in the snowman, then watched as Helbin dry humped it. Number 4 was submitted by Kiwi0999. When she was in 6th grade, Froggy and her friends created a game where they would yank each other's hair out. Whoever yanked out the most hair got to pick the next activity. Whenever they played their game at school, the aides never tried to stop them, which surprised Froggy. Later that year, the aides ended up getting fired for an unknown reason. Number 3 was submitted by Dolansdeeznuts. Gergak and his friends used to do a lot of crazy stuff, such as tie each other up to do fake interrogations or throw snowballs over cars as they passed by, which Gergak thought was really dumb. But the dumbest thing Gergak and his friends ever did was the invisible line trick. only they actually tied a line, so when a car came by, the driver didn't react. Instead, he kept driving until the line cut through his bumper like butter. The stop sign the line was tied to flew up and into his back window, shattering it. The angry driver climbed out and chased Gray and his friends, but in the end, only his friends got in trouble. Number 2 was submitted by 7Jim77. One day, to have some fun, James Shark bought 2 mousetraps at school. He had welts all over his arm, which his friend saw, but before his friend could ask him how he got the welts, James Shark set the mousetraps and put his arm in them. They went off, creating new welts. Later that day, James Shark and one of his friends went to a convenience store for lunch. When his friend bought a drink, James Shark bought a giant rat trap. His friends were surprised at what he was buying, since he saw him putting his arm in 2 mousetraps that morning. Later that day, while still at school, James Shark took out the giant rat trap. He set it up and put his hand in it. The bars slammed down on his hand, making him scream. The next day, he went to school wearing a wrist brace. Number 1 was submitted by TheManWithNoSchtick. When they were in high school, Ghost Toast and his friends did all kinds of crazy stuff for cheap laughs. One time they went through a drive-thru on foot and pretended to be an invisible car. Another time they had a Nerf-gun war on the children's playground in the park. One night after catching a late movie, Ghost Toast and his friends went to a nearby golf course. Since the place was littered with golf balls, they began throwing them at each other as though it was a snowball fight. When they got bored, they arranged the golf balls in a phallic symbol and curse words. Then they stuffed their pockets with more golf balls and went home. Huge thanks for the folks over on our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. We have another question for you. What is your unusual hobby? Let us know on the Reddit page linked below and you might be featured in a future countdown.
Oh, thanks, Dolan. Guys, there's a hot new update to Dolan Kart Turbo. We're adding a whole plethora of new things, new story mode, customizable carts, wheels, trails, and components, a new level, and a new ability.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care, everybody. Peace.